Now, French Montana is actually wrong. He doesn't have more hits than Kendrick Lamar. Although that's the case, there is actually a really interesting and important conversation that needs to be had regarding this, so yeah. Let's talk about it. Now, why am I even making this video and what exactly is going on? What's going on is this. French Montana did an interview with Complex the other day where he hit on a variety of topics, but there's one part on this interview that has everybody talking, and it's about French Montana saying how he has more hits than Kendrick Lamar. The interviewer first introduces this discussion by bringing up a recent battle Tory Lanez and French Montana had on Instagram Live.
Earlier this quarantine, we saw you face off against Tory Lanez, who's kind of been the king of IG Live, at least for this quarantine.
He then continues the conversation by asking him this.
French, do you think that there's someone better for you to face off?
French Montana then answers that question by saying,
honestly, I could go against anybody. I mean, a lot of people don't know that I got, 15 years, almost 20 in the game. I started in 2000.
Now, this is where French brings up Kendrick and he says this.
I mean, honestly, you could put somebody like Kendrick Lamar next to me on the same stage in the festival. I might outshine them, not because I'm a better rapper or whatever it is, it's just I got more hits.
So pretty much from French's perspective, he can go against anyone, right? Even Kendrick. Now, in this specific scenario, he said that you could put someone like Kendrick next to him at a festival and he might outshine him, not because he's a better rapper, okay? He did not say that he's better than Kendrick, but because he has more hits, he's the one who's gonna come out on top.
Kendrick Lamar got albums, he got masterpieces, you know what I'm saying? But if you was to put us on the festival stage, I will outshine because I have more hits than Kendrick Lamar.
And that right there, that's how that conversation ended. I'm going to leave a link to the full interview in the description below with a timestamp in case you want to watch it uncut without any commentary. Now let's transition into my favorite part, which is the discussion itself. So you've seen the title of this video. French Montana is actually wrong. Now, why exactly do I say that? I say this for a very specific reason, because when people think about a hit song, there's a lot of things that come to mind, such as popularity, cultural impact, Billboard placement, the record's accolades, how relevant was the song in question to the culture in general, which is, in other words, cultural impact. But first, let's talk cold, hard facts, aka numbers, aka the Billboard Hot 100, because that right there, that's something we can actually measure. This is not my opinion, this is us simply looking at the tangible proof, and Kendrick actually beats French Montana by a lot. In front of you right now, you have the chart history of French Montana and the chart history of Kendrick Lamar. This is straight from the source itself, which is Billboard. French Montana has 0 #1 hits, 2 records that have entered the top 10, and 17 songs in total that have entered the Hot 100 Billboard charts. On the other hand, Kendrick has 2 #1 hits, 8 records that have entered the top 10, and 48 songs in total that have entered the Billboard Hot 100 chart. Now this right here is directly from Billboard, and I'll link this chart history down below. So if we look at the actual numbers, French Montana is actually wrong. He doesn't have more hits than Kendrick. And keep in mind, these are results we can actually measure, against each other. That's why I'm using the Billboard Hot 100 charts to prove my point. By the way, if you're enjoying this video so far, definitely drop a like for your boy. But let's talk about something else really quickly. There's a big difference between an anthem and a hit. That's called a hit just because it's been validated by the Billboard charts. I want you to realize this one thing. French Montana has a lot of tracks that don't necessarily have the Billboard Hot 100 placement, but in a lot of people's eyes, those songs are hits. The streets, the people, whatever you want to call it, has decided together that they are extremely impactful, culturally speaking. As an example, Pop That featuring Drake, Wayne, and Rick Ross. Now, I know the song word for word. It's such an anthem, and that's because it created such a big, long-lasting wave when it dropped. Now, this song only peaked at number 36 on the Billboard Hot 100 charts, but to me, it sounds like a #1 record. To a lot of people, the Billboard placement is irrelevant because it is such an iconic anthem, especially in the club scene, right? The question I want to ask you is, would you rather bump Pop That by French Montana on a night out or Alright by Kendrick? I'm guessing most people will pick Pop That. But then again, let's also talk about this extremely important aspect. Kendrick Lamar is a rapper who doesn't make music for the club. He doesn't create his records with the intention of this is gonna go hard in the club. On the other hand, French Montana does. Despite that, French Montana ends up still losing to Kendrick Lamar when we talk about Billboard Hot 100 entries. And this is probably the most important aspect of this entire conversation, so listen up. These are two rappers in two completely different worlds who make music with two completely different motives. One guy, which is French, makes music so he can top the charts. He makes music for the club. He makes music for all of us to get litty too. And then the next guy, which is Kendrick, makes it for a more authentic reason. Kendrick simply raps to speak to your soul. Even though K-Dot is a better artist, he's a better rapper, he's not really better than French because he has a more meaningful reason behind why he makes records. But it's very simple. Kendrick just takes his craft way more seriously. He's a guy who creates music for the purpose of that music being played 10, 20, 30 years from now. That's why Kendrick Lamar is not here for a good time, he's here for a long time. A Kendrick Lamar hit record is more of an accident, while a French Montana hit record is a very calculated and strategic hit. All you really have to look at is the fact that French always gets carried by his features. Nobody listens to Unforgettable by French Montana because of his verse. We all listen to it because Sway Lee had such an incredible, amazing performance, and after that Sway Lee verse, I'm sorry, but next. I'm actually a little bit worried for Sway Lee, man. Is his back doing fine? I'm no medical doctor, but someone said it can't be healthy for your back doing all that carrying. It will break, my guy. Actually, an even better example of French getting carried on a song is Gifted featuring The Weeknd. I mean, The Weeknd absolutely bodies his verse. His spine can't be fine after that. When they love me, I get money, I get money, I get money. It sounds basic, but you just have to listen to it to know why it's so great. Please do yourself a favor after you're done watching this video. Anyway, going back to talking about Unforgettable, you probably noticed how when I was showing you the chart history, it said that French Montana had 0 hits, which doesn't make sense since Unforgettable was such a big record, right? But it's true, the numbers don't lie. Unforgettable never actually hit number 1 or number 2, but it peaked at number 3 on the Billboard Hot 100, which is kind of crazy now that I think about it. You know what's confusing about this entire discussion though? Everyone has their own definition of what a hit is. That's why I think it's very important to specify what you mean when we're talking about hits. There's French Montana records that aren't Billboard Hot 100 certified, but will outshine a whole lot of Kendrick songs in a festival setting. Let's also keep this in mind. As an example, the track Alright by Kendrick Lamar only peaked at number 81 on the Billboard Hot 100 charts. Now, ain't that crazy? I always had a feeling that it was at least a top 10 record. Regardless of that, this is such an important record to the hip-hop culture, and I could honestly care less about the fact that it didn't go number 1. I don't need the Billboard charts to validate Alright by Kendrick for me to say that it's important to this genre. I really don't, okay? I feel like that'd be me giving numbers way too much power. Alright by Kendrick, quote unquote, only has 225 million streams on Spotify. Compare that to something like The Box by Roddy Ricch that has 3 times the amount. Now, don't get it twisted, I still got The Box on repeat heavy like it's my job, but a question, which one of these songs is gonna be remembered the most 20 years from now? That's what I'm trying to say. I'm saying it's not always about the Billboard placements. That's why I think French Montana does have somewhat of a point in what he said. Now, the fact is, he's still losing to a guy who doesn't make music with the intention of getting a hit record, which tells us something, right? But simply specifying what angle you're approaching it from will make things easier. Are we talking about who has the most club bangers? Are we talking about cultural impact? What exactly are we talking about? At the end of the day though, like I showed you, if we look at the stats that we can in fact measure, Kendrick Lamar does take this W. He does have more hits than French Montana, and that's why French Montana is actually wrong. What do you think about this entire conversation? French Montana says that he has more hits than Kendrick Lamar. Definitely let me know in the comment section below and let's have a discussion about this.